Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I'm here with Glen Willis and Tyler Jones recording on a Thursday night, Friday, on a Wednesday night. I got my days all mixed up. And as we're sitting down to record, we have some breaking NBA news. Uh, Trae Young has a cat. Glenn, as someone who dabbles in the cat trade, what's your reaction to Trae getting a cat?
I had not seen that. So, I mean, cats are great. I mean, anyone who follows me on Twitter knows that this household is my wife and I foster kittens that are found in challenging situations, and we have five of our own that were all adult ferals that we socialized and fit here with us, but probably would not transition to another home. So, good for Trey.
All right. Um, it's been a while since we recorded, and so we're still sort of needing to talk about summer league. And I don't know where you want to start. We didn't necessarily get a great glimpse at all the players due to injury. So I mean, it is what it is. Tyler, when we get to summer league, what do you want to talk about most?
Mm. That's a good question. Unfortunately, I think the biggest news was that Nico had to have surgery on his foot, and it looks like he's not even going to be able to be on a basketball court until November. So, like, the thing that stinks for him is that he's not under a contract right now. So, I kind of actually don't know what his future is going to hold in
I
the
actually
short.
asked that question when he was available before summer league. I was like, "Can you play? Like, do you have to sign a contract first?" And I think we got a little confused. I think that was the one time where it was like the language barrier popped up, and I don't think he knew exactly what I was asking, so I didn't really give a very good answer.
Well, I mean, they're allowed to. You can play
You
without a
can, I
contract.
know you can, but I mean, I don't know. I was just surprised that he did, I guess, a little bit.
We've got like 3 years of Alpha Kawhi, playing without a contract. So, they had his draft rights, and I guess that's how it works.
But, I mean, I guess mostly I was asking because I didn't know if he would play. Like, if I didn't know, like, I knew he could. I just didn't know if he would before it ended up getting signed. So yeah, that stinks. Okay, so Mo Gay, let's go there. So since of the Hawks young players, we really didn't get to see a whole lot of them. Didn't get to see a whole lot of Reese Shea. We didn't get to see Seth Lundy. We didn't get to see. I mean, we just all the
Kobe.
young core. We just did not get to see a whole lot of it. We got to see a fair amount of Mo Gay. What did you think? Watching him in these summer league games.
Yeah, it was interesting because the first game I think we talked about is a little clunky. And I think that came down to the fact that last year, whether at College Park or with Atlanta, the few minutes he played in Atlanta, he was in the pick and roll, he was diving to the rim. He wasn't really doing much apart from that. But they were playing through him a good bit, right? They were playing five out, they're playing through their fours and their fives. And I thought he got better every game in that area of play. I thought he was an aggressive shooter. I liked that he was putting shots up. I liked the way he ran the floor, and I just liked the composer he played with. In summer league, what you want to see is guys are doing things that they maybe haven't done before in a lot of cases, and you want to see them just stick with it and get a little better every game. And so for me, I know it's funny because if you go on Hawks Twitter, and the big question now is he going to be the backup four? How many is he going to play? Like, and is he a rotation guy this year for the Hawks? I think it's so hard to answer that question right now. Um, because there could be other roster moves that are coming. It's just not even August 1st yet, and here we are, kind of not sure what's going to happen between now and third week of October or so when the season starts. But I thought he showed a lot of good stuff, and so I was pleased with what I saw. I think we all know he has to get to play like whatever 1,800 minutes across all. He's got to get stronger, right? He's probably going to get banged up. That's true of Ricochet as well. Like, anyone who thinks Ricochet is going to play 20 minutes a game, 82 games next year, you're going to probably see him hurt. He's just not strong enough to kind of handle that kind of workload against actual NBA players right now. But for
I actually don't agree with that, Glenn. I think um I actually think he physically he's fine. Um like
So
I
which
think he'll
Glenn was
I
talking
don't
about two players. So who are you talking
yeah,
about
Reese Shea.
specifically?
I'm talking about Reese
Okay,
Shea. I think
okay.
Reese Shea um physically I'm not seeing what you're seeing on that front, Glenn. I think he's actually uh pretty advanced for his age, considering also that he played 65 games of professional league. I actually think he's going to play as many minutes as are available to him based on his production on the floor. Unless he gets hurt, of course. I mean, but that can happen. That can happen with any player. But to me, the way he moves, the way he physically moves on a basketball floor, um, it's impressive because I if you compare him to Mo Gay, like Mo, it felt like he played with such like aggression and intensity, or like he was overtaxing his body, and he's constantly falling on the floor. With Ricochet, even though he's skinny, and you do see him get like moved off his spots a bit, especially you see when he's driving. But like to me, he was always consistently on balance. Like he was always not he wasn't getting knocked to the floor um, by either his actions or the actions of an opposite player. So I actually think there's some level of I have some comfort with him where if I'm going to compare him to Mo Gay, like Mo Mo A just needs to play more, and he needs to learn how to play. He needs to learn how to scale it back athletically because he's an elite athlete, but he doesn't have the frame to play the way that he wants to play, if that makes sense. Because he's just gonna get like to me, I just feel like the power dunking, in traffic and stuff like that. He's gotta learn some more craft if he wants to if he wants to stay in the league, really. Just based on his physical frame. Whereas Ricochet, he does a pretty good. Like to me, I think he does. It's a. I guess I'm thinking about this like more in the football terms. Like Ricochet does a very good job of taking contact in ways that I don't think Mo is there yet. So if I'm not like I don't know if he'll play 82 games, but like I don't see why he can't play 20 plus minutes every game he steps on the NBA floor next season. Like like similar to what Trey Young did his rookie year, or DeAndre Hunter even his rookie year. Like I think that's not going to be a concern of mine. That's what I took away from overall Ricochet's playing. Like um, physically, I just found him to be pretty impressive overall, just based on what I feel what he looked like athletically. But I could be wrong, you know.
and my thought process is just that he's going to be going up against guys who are consistently 30, 35 pounds heavier than him, right? And he's going to be dealing with that kind of size and that kind of, physicality. And I think it's fair to call out that his functional athleticism will help him, it, to a degree in that way. That's still a lot of banging, right?
But
That's
Glenn,
still a lot of banging for him to deal with at 19.
that that's interesting you say that because actually Hollinger wrote in a piece. I don't know if you saw this
Yep.
that the Hawks, or you probably did, that the Hawks consider him a wing. And like to me, I think early in his career, I think Ricochet is going to be guarding smaller players almost exclusively.
Okay.
Uh, um, I don't think they're going to I don't think he's going to play power forward. Or they're not going to intentionally put him on the bigger wings in the NBA. I think they're going to put him on twos, smaller wings, guards to ease him into the NBA, and also because they can afford to do so with Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels on the roster. Like, I don't think they're gonna like. To me, I don't think. I think it would be pretty smart if I were the coach of the Hawks. I would have him guarding the same type of players that V Krejci was guarding, where it's like he's not really guarding the wings. He's kind of guarding the guards who bring the ball up the floor, or the other guard who's like the smaller like if if we take an example for if they're playing the Cleveland Cavaliers, I can see him guarding Darius Garland, not Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Just that type of offensive talent, less physical, more relying on their speed and quickness. I think that's where Ricochet would do well, and I think that'd probably be a nice way to ease Ricochet into the NBA lifestyle. But like he's a for real athlete to me. Like and like overall banging like consistent banging with bigger players, it's really less about how much you weigh physically and more about your core strength to me. And like I think he has that. That's what that like that, and that's why he's able to do a lot of the stuff he's able to do on both ends of the floor. So like it'll be interesting to see what they do overall. But I think he's going to be guarding a lot of smaller players, just to really take advantage of his quickness.
So you want to go back to Mo Glenn?
Yeah,
Just overall?
I mean, for me, like I think the conversation was, is EJ more likely to be in the rotation or Mo, like at this point in time, or is Hunter going to play a lot of four when Jalen's off the floor and there aren't so many minutes for either Mo or EJ? And I think that's what, the preseason camp is for. I think there's plenty of time to kind of work all that out. I think EJ has a little bit more physicality as a defender and a little bit more kind of scheme versatility. Where Mo's out there, if you're getting a guy all the way up to the level of the screen, you're trapping, whatever that's going to be. So I mean, Mo just has a ton of defensive range where EJ can actually, even though he's only about like 6'6" or something. I'm not sure how tall he is, but he's really plays a lot of force and that doesn't really kind of back down from anything. So, when someone asked me like, what do you think? I think there's going to be games where the matchup's going to dictate if those two guys are getting, say, 12, 14 minutes a game, when Jalen's off the floor or whatever. You're going up against a team that has a lot of size, it might be EJ. You go up against a team Cleveland, where you really got to get your big up the floor and help, at the point of the level of the screen and stuff like that. EJ's pretty good at that too, but that might be so. I think it's one of those things where those guys kind of both play depending upon matchup and situation. It's a good problem to have. I mean, the depth they had last year at the four issues when Jalen got hurt and then Hunter got hurt. I mean, it's nice to see a couple of guys that, and they're young and they haven't played a ton yet. So you have to factor that into your expectations, I think. But it's nice to have guys who look like they can go out there and do enough to help the team when needed.
And I thought Mo defensively was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
He had some like they all had miscommunication issues sometimes, but like overall, like his impact, especially his rim protection, I thought was pretty good throughout, which is not something I could have said last summer league. So like and even during like the sparse minutes that he played in the G League and the NBA last year, like defensively, he was kind of like a lost lamb out there, but like it seemed like he knew what he was doing. He knew what he needed to do defensively, and to me, I mean, you just look at his size and his length. That can be a real weapon for the Hawks, potentially at the four, and even maybe small ball center if they want to maybe throw him out there with Jalen sometimes and get even more, even more variety or whatever. Like I was overall I was impressed with the growth that Mo had. I know his offense wasn't the best, but then I got to remember the summer league, and also like it's not the role he's going to be playing in. Well, he might do some of the stuff he was doing because I actually thought I think the Laker game before he got hurt, that second half was pretty impressive when he was just really using his athleticism, but he wasn't forcing the issue like he was the other two games where he was getting the ball up the floor quickly and making great reads, passing the ball. And I think, to me, more than shot creating, where he's looking to score points and get his shot, I think if he can really lock down on, if I can become a good passer, or if at my size I can break the paint and then kick it out to an open shooter, like that's how somebody, like, to me, that's how Mo Gay will make a lot of money on his second contract. If he can nail that down with plus defense. Like that's a really good basketball player. And like I don't know if he's gonna play that much next season, at least at the start of the season, but I think it would behoove the Hawks. And like I think Zach Lowe wrote about how he mentioned that Mo game is a factor in their roster decisions. Like I think the Hawks brass consider him part of the new core coming up. So he might be getting minutes, and that's something I would, if I were the Hawks, I would try to like. If I'm the Hawks, I want to build a team that can win a title in the next 2 or 3 years. I feel like Mo Gay would be a good piece to have. And if you can like unlock the talent that he has and get consistent production, and also like keep him healthy at the same time, like to me that's a really good player.
What did you think about the Hawks signing Keaton Wallace to a two-way contract? I guess we talked about that last time.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
it was like he went out and had
New
one
question.
game.
New question.
No, just
Maybe we'll edit that
the
out.
recap is the recap. He went out and had one game that made them say, "Oh no, someone's going to sign him. We better sign him." You know, and he was disruptive the whole time.
Whole
Like
time.
it was I the last game I watched, I was sitting right behind Sam Vecini, and I mentioned something to my friend Dane Moore who's watching the game with me, and it's like Keaton's just blowing up every pick. He's blowing up every pick and roll. And Sam was like, "Oh, I love Keaton," and so it was fun to watch Keaton play. So yeah,
He's, I
he's he's
mean,
he's gonna he's gonna help them this year. He's gonna help
yeah,
them.
he's a good player, and like he can help. He could have helped some teams that need. I mean, I saw the Sixers just sign Reggie Jackson or something. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
It's one of those things where it's like NBA teams aren't even the smartest NBA teams like the Sixers because they're pretty smart, but like you look at some of their like deep bench roster decisions they've made. I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. Like they're bringing
yeah.
back we talked about it 8 billion times to bring back the old Rockets team. I'm like, how many guys over the age of 35 you guys going to sign? Like, what are we doing here? So
Yeah, yeah. The
uh,
Rockets had a whole roster of those guys, and Mike D'Antoni would play seven guys in a regular
yeah,
season game.
exactly. So it's just like Daryl's not really helping his coach out here. But to me, I'm like Keaton Wallace is somebody who could have helped the team. Like I think
Yeah,
he can help the Hawks. Like they need a third point guard, and I think he's he fits the bill of a guy who can run your offense, shot create for himself, but also play alongside somebody like a Trae Young if they're injured or even if they're not injured. I could totally see him in camp earning himself minutes if Kobe Buffkin is still hurt or with whatever shoulder injury he has, or even if Kobe is healthy and he's like working his way back. Like I can
Yeah.
see a scenario where Keaton Wallace is just like the third
like a
guard,
point guard.
backup
Yeah.
point guard.
If Kobe can't play, you roll Keaton out there 14 minutes, whatever it is.
It's not going to be
I'm
easy
fine
for
with that.
Kobe. He's not going to. He's going to be rusty when he comes back. He's not going to have a summer to prepare the way that
Yeah.
Keaton
Yeah.
is. I wanted to ask you sort of what you thought. This is kind of lumping a few things together, but like sort of like coaching and scheme wise, what you saw from the Hawks in summer league.
It's
Yeah, I
the way
mean,
that
so yeah, go ahead, Tyler. Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, I feel like it's the way Quinn wants them to play on both ends of the floor, but particularly on defense. Um, it's what I feel like they tried to play this defense. They just didn't have the personnel for it. Like they didn't have the point of attack defenders, and they, outside of a Okongwu and Jalen, they didn't really have the bigs who could, be out there on the floor and switch out and do the stuff that they were doing both in the G League and what they did in the summer league. So, Glenn, I might be wrong, but I felt like it was a continuation of what they were doing at College Park, and
Yeah,
it's also what they
yeah,
want to do for the NBA team. But then they haven't been able to. I feel like this season they actually have the roster to be able to actually implement Quinn's style or this new style that Quinn wants to play. But it'll be interesting to see if they get to it, even because they still have some holdovers like Capella and DeAndre Hunter who might not be the best fit.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, Kevin watched way more College Park than probably anybody last year. So, Kevin, did it look the same to you when you watched the summer league? Did it look the same to you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's apples and oranges because College Park, had the benefit of like a full training camp, and you look at
Yeah.
the average of what they're doing over a 35 game season, and it's different. It's a more polished product. It's not as choppy as it would be. The miscommunications and things are a lot more smooth, and having somebody like Chris Silva is like just night and day, which he's just being the anchor, and so everybody kind of just play off of that on defense, and so it's just kind of different. So it's hard to say. It is interesting
Yeah.
that Steve Clay is going to be reportedly going to be the College Park coach this year, and he kind of got to take over the reins in the parts of the
Yeah.
second half of summer league. He was kind of off the bench and acting as sort of a de facto head coach in instead of Ronald Nord.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the interesting thing to me was, we talked about this in the first game. They were bringing two defenders to help at the rim, and they didn't stick with that the whole way through. They kind of mixed things up. But to me, offensively was what jumps out at you, right? Point guard gives the ball up to a four or a five at the 3-point break on the wing or whatever, extended elbow, and point guard cuts to the weak side, sets a screen, gets into split cuts. Somebody, ricochet from a slot cut from the weak side. I mean, just a lot of movement on the weak side, a lot of movement and cutting on the weak side. And you watch that, and the question I have for myself, and I'm not making a judgment. I don't want anyone to think I'm making. It's like, is Trae Young going to do that? Right? Is Trae going to get the ball up? I mean, and at times he did it last year. At times he was setting a screen on the weak side and kind of getting into some of that, but it wasn't consistent in terms of what the team was doing. That wasn't consistently a part of what they were doing. Right? Some Hawks fans will say when Trey got hurt, they started doing more of it, and that's true, right? But you had guys whose skill set, like Veit, is great at that stuff, right? Veit is awesome at that stuff, right? Trey naturally wants the ball because that's where all of his strengths align with him possessing the ball and creating. And so for me, I think I watched them play offense in Vegas, and I'm like, what's the balance between letting Trey be Trey? But using all five players on offense to create motion and stress on the defense, and recognizing when the defense is overloaded to the strong side and creating some sort of cut, whatever that is. And so it's just interesting for me to think about what that looks like with Trey on the floor, because I think it'd be silly to think like you want Trey to do all the time. And I mean, everybody points at Curry, Steph, right? One of a kind. Steph is a one of a kind moving off the ball. Like, I mean, his conditioning is like unhuman. Like, just like, it's crazy. You can't take any player ever and compare him to Steph in terms of all that stuff that Steph commits him to. But for me, it's just like, how is Quinn going to strike that balance between letting Trey just run pick and roll with Jalen in the short roll or a Kongu in the short roll or whatever that is, because they need to lean on that. They need to have a decent volume of that stuff that Trey is optimized in. But there are times too when the opposing defense is just like, Trey, we're gonna trap you, we're gonna hard hedge, whatever it's gonna be. And that the stuff that we saw them do in summer league is the stuff that helps you deal with those kind of defensive schemes. And so for me, I'm trying to be open-minded about what I think Quinn is going to try to do to kind of create that balance between letting Trey do the stuff that he's really, really good at, but also having a team that's committed to functioning together and creating movement, creating action on the weak side that creates opportunity for easy shots at the rim. And so for me, I'm just trying to I'm looking forward to the first preseason game with if the regulars play, like what does it look like, because I think it's hard. I think it's
Glenn,
a
and I
hard thing for
think
Quinn, but that's why Quinn gets the big bucks. He's got to figure it out.
that you bring this up because I'm thinking about this now. That's why you bring in somebody like a Dyson Daniels, you know, because I don't know if you guys are watching him in
Oh
his
yeah.
in these Olympic
Whew.
one. I
Oh
mean,
man,
he looks incredible defensively. We'll talk
he
about that too.
does.
But I think, I mean, a real strength of Dyson. It's similar to Vic Krejci, but I mean, I think he's better at it in this because he grew up as a point guard. Like he plays like a point guard. He can bring the ball up the floor and run your offense. So talking about initiating the offense this way, you can always start your sets more consistently. Because they did this some with DeJounte, but it always felt like
It was
DeJounte,
DeJounte's turn.
yeah, it was always a your turn, my turn. Whereas Dyson, I'm not trying to get political or say anything one way or the other, but I'm just saying like Dyson Daniels, he'll do what Quinn wants him to do offensively. Pass it to like if he's bringing the ball to the floor, hit it ahead. If that's not there, pass it to my 4 or my 5. You know, cut to the lane, space to the corner, and then the ball comes back to Trey while there's natural movement going on, so that the defense just can't focus on Trey bringing the ball up the floor and all eyes on Trey on defensively. You know, it's just the way it's a natural, easier way to get Trey involved, save some of his legs too, because you're gonna need him in the fourth quarter. Like ideally, I'm not saying we, ideally in the fourth quarter in crunch time, I want Trey to have the ball in his hands 100% of the time, dictating the terms. But to get there, I think it's a good deal to have somebody like a Dyson Daniels who was not going to turn the ball, which was the issue with the Summer League Hawks and the issue the College Park Skyhawks had until Vic Krejci more or less became their point guard. Like, there are levels of I need to trust my guards to get my team set that's not Trey Young. Because if Dyson can't do this, or if the forwards are turning the ball over too much, this is all going to end. It's just going to be the Trey Young dictating everything show. But like, if these guys cannot turn the ball over, I think that's even more important than what Trey's doing off the ball. I think more than anything else, it's like just consistently getting good shots up, running this offense, which is what I think they can do. I mean, these are you get somebody like Daniels, you get a Reese Shea, you get a Jalen Johnson. Like, these are good passers. Next to even on a Kongu, like these are all good processors of the game that aren't Trey Young. So you can trust them with the ball in their hands to make the right reads, to make the right decisions. Now all of a sudden, does this lead to positive outcomes? Like, let's say we get a swing scenario and it's Trey Young open for a corner 3-pointer. Like that's what we want. That's what, if you're a Hawks fan, that's what you want. You want more opportunities for Trey Young where he's not the primary creator, because that will lead to more efficient looks for Trey, and it will get guys like Dyson more involved who needs to be more aggressive. Like, I think there's a cohabitate, there's a synergy there that potentially could exist, because that's what I'm seeing with the Australian team. Like, Giddey and Dyson, they're kind of time sharing it, where Dyson's doing a really good job of setting Giddey up to score the ball. And like, Giddey's an okay scorer, but like he's been exceptional for the Australian team, at least in the run up to the Olympics, primarily because Dyson's putting him in good positions. And then the same is true with Giddey, where Giddey's kind of feeding him in areas where he can attack and be aggressive offensively. So like,
it's important to say that, like, I mean, I don't want this to be taken as like it's a Trey problem. It's not. Every player of Trey's stature is going to naturally want to do the things that they're good at, predominantly, right? But here's the thing: you run 20 straight possessions of middle pick and roll. That's how you attack a bottom 10 defense. You're playing a top 10 defense, you got to have more than that. You got to have other wrinkles, other options, option B, option C, or, a plan off the plan off the plan. And that's where the Hawks really haven't had that consistently across, the Nate era, whatever whatever era you want to talk about it. And so those other options have to be available to you when you're playing a top defense, because the top defense will be like, we're not letting you run that. We're just not we're just not letting Trey get to where he wants to get. We're just not letting. And if you don't have a way to say, okay, well, if you're going to do that, we're going to do this, right? We're going to split cut on the weak side. We're going to slot cut, from the weak side, whatever that stuff is stuff that they showed that they did. And every coach with every star player, there's this delicate balance that has to be sought. I remember reading years ago about Manu Ginobili's first practice with the Spurs, and they were, kind of going through their offensive sets, and he kept ad-libbing, and Tim Duncan was like, Manu, you need to stand right there and you don't move. I don't care if you feel like there's a cut to the basket. You have to stand right. And Manu was like pulling his hair out. Like Manu was going crazy. Like, yeah, he felt like he was put in the box. And it took Manu a couple years to really understand why everything was so procedural with the way that the Spurs ran their offense. When Tim had the ball here, he wants someone here. He wants someone like it was very, very prescriptive in what they ran. But that's, Manu came over from playing internationally where he was a superstar. He had a lot of freedom to kind of do what he wanted to do. And what all of this reminds me of is if you go back to the exit interviews, right? What did Bogey talk about?
Sacrifice.
When sacrificing, exactly, right, sacrificing. And to me, like, we haven't talked about the over under that came out, the low 30s over under that came out. I think it's a joke. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but I will tell you the level of sacrifice this team makes will have a big impact on the number of games that they win. That's true of defense, that's true of offense, and it's Quinn's job to let Trey do enough of the stuff that Trey's good at, so Trey feels like I'm being empowered to lean into my strengths. But it's also Quinn's job to get his team to recognize when that's not enough, or that's not the solution tonight, or that's not the solution in this fourth quarter. And that's what Quinn has to navigate across the season. And so it's not like this unique Trey problem. Every player of Trey's caliber is going to want to do things that they are naturally good at, but it's not enough when you try to make a deep run. That's not you have to have a more diverse set of options, a more versatile set of things that you can do offensively when a really good defense is just taking your good stuff away from you.
Was there anybody from the summer league roster that you're like, man, I'd love to have them in College Park this season?
Man, player I'd like to have on the NBA is Dylan Windler. I College Park. I think the one center they brought I thought he actually impressed me, but I'm blanking on his name.
On
And
Jenda?
yeah, Agenda. Yeah, I thought he was pretty like somebody to throw a fly.
Not Baker? You don't like Baker? It's a joke.
And, he's a better player than what he showed in summer league. I thought he just had I don't know what was going on. Like seen him in College Park. Like he was good in College Park. I just felt like he was doing a little too much in summer league. But like getting back with Windler, I think his level, like his ability to bomb from 30+ feet off of pure catch and shoot, like that's pretty impressive. Like spot up back there and consistently hit that shot. And his size and his ability to rebound, he's kind of a hybrid 4-3-ish player, but he's pretty big for the type of shooter that he is. And I think I would like for the Hawks to be able to sign him to like a contract on the NBA.
They need
just
him.
Get some type of big wing, another shooter out there to throw out.
Really high level shooter, can rebound, professional defender, right? The other guy caught my eye.
Like he's got great rebounding instincts.
He's amazing.
He really loads up.
The other guy that really opened my eyes was Bowden, right? His last couple of games were really good.
Yes.
I think. I mean, barring like he getting a better offer somewhere else, like I feel like he will be in College Park. Like,
yeah, I mean, just aggressive and solid with the ball and good read, just smart, and he was the best. Like they had problems late clock the whole 5 games they played. He was the one guy who didn't really have that issue. He kind of got, he recognized like, oh my guy's not going to get here for the screen, so I'm going to go. So he just looked like he looked like a professional. You guys know how I feel about Miles Norris. He's such a in baseball you call him a 4A player. He's just not big enough to play the 4 all the time for you. But just I mean, when you watch him play, you're like, that's the future coach. Because, man, he does everything right. I mean,
If
literally every single thing right. But you just don't know if he can actually be like an NBA rotation player just because of the size and, all that stuff.
yeah, it's I think it's more defensively with Miles.
Yep.
Just like I don't think he has the foot speed for the four, and he's not big enough for a five. So it's like he's kind of a weird tweener,
Yeah.
unfortunately for him.
But
But like,
his leadership, I mean, just jumps out at you, especially when you're watching him live, right?
yeah,
It's so cool to see.
I feel like Windler could end up on the Hawks just because
They need him.
it
they
feels
yeah, I
like
think
it feels like the Hawks are like pretty close to being done. Like there's not a whole lot coming for this roster for this season.
But you got to figure out the center
But
position
they
as
got to
well,
figure
right?
out the center. But you look at the list of players that are available as like free agent centers, and it's like you get to like the second name on the list is like Tristan Thompson. It's like, oh yeah, if somebody needs a center, the Hawks can jump in. It just feels
Yeah.
like something can get done. So
yeah,
What the shooting, right? The Hawks need some shooting depth, and Windler gives you that. I mean, you know, he could sit for a month and go out and hit his
exactly.
next
He
three.
doesn't he doesn't have to play every day, but he
Yeah,
can when you need him, he'll be available and he'll make some shots.
yeah, they need him.
all right, well, thank you for joining me on a weird off-season night, and talk to you again soon. Good night,
Right,
Bob.
Bob?
Good night, Bob.